We've now entered the month of December, the season of winter, the season of the cold, and the season of many, many holidays. And I figured, what do people like to do during the holiday season? Well, I typically like to stay in because of the cold, and often they like to watch shows or movies that have something to do with said season or just winter in general. So I thought, are there any anime that really kind of kindle that feeling of sitting down, bundling up, getting cozy, and just throwing on something holiday or winter related to warm your spirits, to make you feel at home and make you feel like you are part of the season? And I think there are. I figured there were 3 anime that I wanted to talk about that really gave me a similar feeling to watching stuff like, the old Rankin Bass shows and movies and various other Christmas stories. So these are the 3 I want to talk about. 3 wintry, seasonal anime that I think would be a pretty good idea to watch during December, the winter, and the holiday season. First, let's talk about Tokyo Godfathers, one of the handful of movies done by the late Satoshi Kon. Now, Kon's films typically kind of focus on the psychological and often the mind fuckery, for lack of a better term. This one is quite a bit different. This one is definitely the thing that he made that feels the most distinct compared to his usual style, and that's probably why it's my favorite thing he made. And it is very much so a Christmas movie, dealing with 3 people who, for various reasons, are on their own, effectively homeless, or literally homeless, and in some way estranged from their family. Effectively, they have to become a family themselves, so to speak, and try to get through the various trials and tribulations they face given their situation. And maybe by the end of the movie, they might be able to reconnect with their actual family and grow as people through everything they've gone through. It is very much so in the spirit of typical holiday films that try to make you feel good, feel more connected to family, and just leave you in a more joyous, thankful, grateful, and positive mood by the end. It really is, I think, maybe the most standard, in a good way, in a very good way, anime Christmas film. And I think for that reason, you really should have watched it if you have any interest in holiday films. And also just, most people like to try out at least a few Satoshi Kon products, and while yes, this is different from a lot of what he has done otherwise, even if you don't really like his more psychological stuff, try this one out, because it is different, and it is something I think the majority of people will like, even if they don't like his other works. So check it out if you haven't. Next, I want to talk about a series, one that doesn't specifically have to do with Christmas at all, but it does very much so root itself in winter and winter imagery, being Kanon, specifically the 2006 version, because let's be honest, no one wants to talk about the 2002 version. Kanon 2006 is just in general one of my favorite anime, and I'm kind of surprised I've never talked about it before on the channel, or at least not like individually. I know I've mentioned it here and there. And given that I've talked about Clannad and Air and even Planetarian briefly, it's probably long overdue that I talk about Kanon in some way. Hopefully I can get around to a dedicated video on that sooner rather than later, but that's neither here nor there. Kanon 2006, beyond being, a romance anime with a main male character dealing with the struggles of multiple female characters and ultimately ending up with one of them, as is the formula, focuses very, very strongly on winter imagery and snow. You see snow basically throughout the vast majority of the show because it takes place not during Christmas, but during the like period afterwards, while the characters are heading back into school after winter break. So like, you know, January, February, March-ish is generally the time period we're looking at. And while that is past the holiday season, it still, I think, evokes a very similar feeling because of just how much snow is everywhere. You see snow in town, snow in the neighborhood, snow at school, snow in open fields, snow in the forest, and all of it is just beautiful. I mean, this is Kyoto Animation. Even though it's a show from 2006, my God, does it look stunning. And it really, for me at least, creates a very relaxing and chill, no pun intended. Actually, you know what? No, pun entirely intended, atmosphere. I really do personally get relaxed by snow, especially if you get to see snow on the ground during a full moon. I genuinely think there are very few things more beautiful than the way everything lights up with a full moon and snow on the ground. So while we don't get something specifically like that in Kanon, just the way the snow is done, the way it's animated, the way the backgrounds look, it is just so warm. Ironically, it just makes me feel so peaceful and calm. It's like being in a warm blanket, getting embraced by something really, really heartwarming, literally. And that's not even talking about the show itself and the characters, who I think are very strong and some of my favorites, and all the individual arcs that happen and the progression of Yuichi, our main character, as he goes through each of these arcs. I really, really adore this show. Not just because of all the winter visuals, but I think those visuals really stand out, partly because there aren't a lot of shows like this that are set exclusively in winter. So even though this isn't a Christmas film or a holiday film or show, I do fully recommend Kanon 2006. And I think if you have the time to check it out leading up into Christmas or even afterwards, you owe it to yourself to do so. And lastly, let's talk about maybe the obvious one to talk about that everyone talks about as far as anime Christmas films, being the disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya. Now, of course, you do need to watch Haruhi the show to watch the film. You can't just go into this, despite the fact that I'm sure there are people who have tried, simply because of the movie's very positive reputation compared to the show's more mixed reviews, especially given, you know, Endless 8 and the weird watch orders, the 4 different watch orders. By the way, just do yourself a little favor. Just do yourself a little favor and watch the chronological order. Don't do this weird like broadcast or DVD order. Like, save yourself the headache. Watch the show normally, for the love of God. It'll make things much easier. But that being said, Disappearance of Haruhi is set during Christmas, and that in of itself makes most people think of this first and foremost when talking about Christmas anime in any way. And it is just genuinely a film that I think lives up to the hype completely. Like, if you've heard anything about this film, it's how amazing and potentially perfect it is, especially as the final thing that was made for Haruhi, not counting the Yuki Nagato spin-off, which is its own separate universe, though it is distantly connected to this film in certain ways, but that's not really relevant. Disappearance of Haruhi is, I believe, a masterpiece of a film, and despite the flaws of Haruhi the show, this film on its own really doesn't have any flaws. Like, maybe you could say how long it is, but it kind of needs to be that long. And it is long. It is nearly 3 hours, so don't expect to watch this quickly. You need to have the time to sit through this. But it will be worth it. It genuinely is one of the few times I think I've seen an anime have such incredible hype before watching it for it to actually live up to it and be as great as the hype made it out to be. And yes, if you haven't seen Haruhi, you do need to watch that. And that is, of course, asking a lot, because that's 28 episodes and then a 3-hour movie. That's even more than watching Kanon, which is 24 episodes. But I do believe it is worth it. This film is just fantastic. And if you want to watch something that really captures the holiday meaning and holiday spirit of appreciating what you have and being grateful and thankful for all of it, this film gives you that in spades. That is basically the main point of the film. So, yes, it does require quite a bit of prep work to watch it, but it's worth it. Because honestly, if you tried to watch the film on its own, not only does it not make sense, but like you're not going to have any attachment to anything. So while Haruhi the show again has its problems, and you don't need to watch all of Endless Eight if you don't want to, you should definitely give it a watch, if only to be able to see this truly fantastic film. And those are 3 anime that I think make sense to watch in December, in the following months, just generally in the holiday or winter season. I think they all in some way capture and evoke the feelings of holiday, of family, of being grateful and thankful for what you have. And for that reason, all of them should be watched, ideally during this time of year. But even if not, you should still check them out. That's it from me. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time.